Good evening, everyone. It is your girl, Marcy Thomas, and I am so glad to be back with you for another episode of Live Well Sisters. So come on in the room, as they like to say, and get ready for what's going to be a really wonderful conversation with a guest who's been here with us before. So just in case you haven't been here before, if this is your first time joining us, I am coming to you live from the outskirts of Atlanta, Georgia, originally from Cleveland, Ohio, with a whole bunch of other places and spaces in between. So if you're here and you don't mind dropping us a line to let us know where you're joining us from, that would be really wonderful. So today is an extra special day. Again, as I said, is a return guest. And also, if you're watching in real time, it is birthday eve for me. So I'm excited to celebrate another year of living. And at the time that we scheduled this, I hadn't read the book yet. But now that I've had a chance to read it, it's actually perfect timing as I prepare to transition into a new year and really thinking about how I want to engage in life and living well as I move forward on this new part of my journey. So our special guest for the evening is Karen Walrond, who is the author of The Lightmaker's Manifesto, Radiant Rebellion, which she came and talked to us about previously, and In Defense of Dabbling, her new book that we're going to get into today. As a lawyer, leadership coach, and activist, she has helped thousands of people worldwide find purpose and meaning in their lives. Karen and her work have been featured on Brene Brown's Unlocking Us podcast, PBS, Huffington Post, CNN.com, and the Oprah Winfrey Show. That's hard to say real fast, so let me slow down. A sought-after speaker, she is also the author of The Beauty of Different and her award-winning blog, Trukulunks. I might not have said that right. She'll correct me, which is a lifestyle, inspiration, and photography destination. She and her family reside in Houston, Texas. And without any further delay, let's welcome back to Live Well Sister, Karen Walrond. Welcome, Karen.
Hello, and happy birthday.
Thank you.
What an honor to help welcome you to your new year.
Yes, I'm counting down.
Nice.
Yes, a little more, about 14 hours and 3 minutes.
Wow, you are counting down.
I was born at 10:07 in the morning. So.
Wow, amazing.
And I saw online your hubby celebrated yesterday, so you are in good company. Libras are beautiful people.
That is the fact. I cannot argue with that.
So again, it's so exciting to have you back with us again and to be able to share this new book, In Defense of Dabbling. So first, I just want to congratulate you because this book is brand spanking new. Like the book's birthday was 2 days ago.
2 days ago, yeah, exactly. It's a Libra as well.
It's a Libra as well. And that's actually perfect because there's a level of balance that this is helping you to find. So it's perfect that this book baby is also a Libra. So, congratulations on that. I know you got a lot of things going on to get out in the world and, let people know that this book is here. So thank you for allowing me to be one of the first to talk to you.
Absolutely my honor. I'm thrilled to be back.
Yes. So In Defense of Dabbling, first of all, what was it that inspired you to write this particular book? Because as you mentioned to me, behind the scenes is different from some of the other things that you've written. So what was it that led you to this particular book?
It was funny because the idea came to me while I was writing the previous book, while I
Oh,
was
wow.
writing Radiant Rebellion. So, Radiant Rebellion, which is all about joyful aging, right? Um, I was writing that book, and every now and then, because I get stuck, right? You get writer's block or something. And anytime I started to get stuck, I would go to my garage and I would grab this beat up hula hoop, and
Mm,
I would hula hoop just to try to shake some ideas and things loose. And occasionally while I was hooping, I would take a selfie, and occasionally I would post that online. And I thought it was really funny because people's reactions were really interesting. They would say things like, "Oh, I could never do that," or "I'm too old to do that." But they could also say things like, "You're so brave." And I remember thinking, how is this brave? Like the worst thing that's going to happen is the hoop's going to fall, right? Like this
right.
isn't that big of a. And so I kept thinking about the fact that, I was just doing something for fun. By the way, I'm not a great hula hooper, right? Like
Okay.
all I can do is like keep it around my waist, but I can't do tricks. I can't do any
Okay.
of the fancy stuff. So I was like, why don't people, or why are they afraid to try things? And
Mm,
why don't people really have hobbies? Like when I was a kid, like my mother and father, they had a bridge club, they went bowling, like they had hobbies. And I'm like, you just don't
mhm,
really hear that anymore. And so I approached my publisher and said, I think the next book I want to write about what it means to be an amateur, to do something just for the love of doing it. And that's the beauty. The word amateur actually means one who loves. And so
mm,
I want to take that back from the pejorative that we usually use it
right.
for, and be like, what would happen if we all pursued intentional amateurship? What would that feel like? And so that's really what the book is. And it's funny because I thought it was just going to be a lighthearted book about hobbies, but it turned out to be something actually quite deeper than that.
It definitely is because, we'll get into some of the things you and I talked about behind the scenes
Yeah.
here shortly, but we live in a time where everything is about being quote unquote productive
Yeah.
and hustle, grind, whatever the case may be. Even though there are people who talk about rest, we
Hmm.
are hearing a lot of talk about rest, but we don't necessarily hear a lot of talk about having, you know, hobbies or having
Yeah.
things that you're doing just for the sake of
Just for
doing
fun.
them and play and all those sorts of things that you do get into the book. So
Yeah.
I think that's just something really to think about because a lot of people just don't know how to do it or they feel guilty when they do it.
Yeah, yeah. And it's what sort of arose for me as I was pursuing like 7 or 8 different things in the book, right? Trying to find the thing that I wanted to do. What I realized is that having something where you can just do it for fun, for your own enjoyment, just for yourself, and have a cadence of going back to it, right? A practice of doing it, it can give you really the same benefits that maybe a yoga practice or a meditation practice might be able to give you. And you're not, especially for those of us who are not like natural meditators or natural
Right.
yoga things, right? Like to be able to say, you know wood carving is my thing, or painting is my thing, and just being able to lose yourself in this thing that you love. It's a form of self-care, and it's a form of self-compassion, and sometimes even a form of self-transcendence. And it
Mm,
really is something that I think is it's a way to introduce joy in your life in a
yes.
way that you have control over it, in a world that joy is sometimes really hard to find.
Right. And really, honestly, 'cause, we're going to talk about the real, right?
Yeah, 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 for
There's a
sure.
lot going on around us. And
Hmm.
there are a lot of people who are feeling stressed, who are
Hmm.
feeling anxious, who
Hmm.
are just feeling a lot of things that aren't necessarily good right
Yeah.
now. And so, I mean, it's always important to have hobbies or have things that you can do that bring you joy.
Hmm.
But right now, it just feels even more critical. And I know when you started writing this book, you didn't know
Yeah.
that we would be here.
None of us knew, right? None of us
Right.
knew. And I think, especially as Black women, right? Like it can feel a lot of times right now that we're kind of in the crosshairs, right? And so the idea of being able to, like, you know what, I'm going to take time for myself to bring myself joy for however long. I mean, I'm not saying like it's got to be 3 hours a day every single day, but if you can return to something for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, but just keep going back, I mean, that's the thing that gives you the energy and the strength to deal with the rest of life, right?
And to really be able to turn off some of the noise.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because you talk about that and how if it's something that you really enjoy, you're not even thinking about that other stuff because you're either you're learning or you're trying to get better for the sake of your own self.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, or trying to stretch yourself in different ways. So it kind of clouds out all of the noise.
Yeah. And I mean, and like, I don't know about you, but I feel like information and misinformation and just bad news is coming at me like a fire hose, right?
Absolutely.
So for me, like, I tried a bunch of things in the book, but for me, the thing that really stuck was pottery. And
Mhm.
pottery has become like my meditation, my sacred space, right?
Yeah.
My self care, my spiritual care. And
Mhm.
I realize now that, like, I was at the pottery today and I didn't have a lot of time because I'm in the middle of promoting a book. But I was like, I just need to get there. So I went there for like 30 minutes. Like I glazed a couple of pots, but the ability to just be like, okay, this is just for me right now. This is just
Mhm.
this. Before I went back into sort of, interviews and all
Mhm.
the things and preparing for travel and all the things that come with promoting a book. It was just a
Mhm.
lovely moment of peace and quiet and just settling right
Yeah.
before I went back to the world.
I love that. And you might not be able to see it real good, but over my shoulder right there is a
Yeah.
I didn't make that one, but a former coworker of mine is like you, and he was doing that just for his own enjoyment. And he actually set up like a site where all of us could go in and like just pick whichever pot you want, and I'll
Uh,
send it to you.
yeah. Oh, I do that. I have actually decided that I will never sell a pot ever, but I
Mhm.
do give them away a lot. As a matter of
Mhm.
fact, the first book launch that I did was here in Houston where I live, and I took 30 pots and I told people, like, take whichever one speaks to you, right? Like, if
Mhm.
any of them speak to you. And for me, the joy of doing that far exceeds the joy I would ever get, if at all, from
Mhm.
selling the work and doing the work for money and doing the work because I'm like, it has to be more perfect because
Right.
other people's opinions matter, right? On this, right? And that's a whole level of stress, frankly, I don't need. I got stress in the rest of my life. So this is just for me.
Yes. Well, I'm just go ahead and get into it now because
Let's
we
do
talked
it.
about it before.
Yeah.
I can attest to that because many of you have watched before, or if you haven't, the artwork and stuff that you see behind me is art that I created probably about it was before I started doing the live interviews and things like
Yeah.
that. And I went through a season where I was like just churning stuff out. And I was actually living in the Savannah, Georgia area at the time, and I had a chance to be a part of a couple of amateur shows and things
Nice.
like that. And had a website set up and all of that, and I enjoyed it. But then until I didn't,
Right.
and I think the mistake, the air quotes, that I made was that I made it into something that became more like a competitive, or I need to get in the
Hmm.
show, I need to do this, I need to set up a website, blah blah blah, instead of just really leaning in and enjoying the process of it
Yeah.
longer. you know
Yeah.
and once I started doing all the book club stuff, it kind of went by the wayside. And y'all, I have a closet full of art supplies.
So let me I want to ask you a question. So when you're painting, like, describe to me what that feels like. What does it feel like when you're doing it and you're just doing it for you?
When I was doing it and just really doing it for myself,
Yeah.
I would like one of the people in your book, I would put on my music. I had my painting playlist,
Yeah, yeah.
and I would just put on whatever, have a little sip of wine, and just really enjoy the process of thinking through, what colors do I want to use, or
Yeah.
what design do I want to create, or you know, I just really enjoyed doing it for the sake of doing it. And I have to back up a little bit because what started me, I was one of those people who's always going to those like paint
Yeah,
classes.
yeah, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
people have
the wine, the sipping
sipping
the
paint.
sipping
I'm gonna
paint. Yeah,
tell a
yeah, yeah.
lot of them. And a friend of mine was like, "Girl, you do that so much, you could just do your own thing." I was like, "You know what? I probably can." And
Right.
I painted like a 36 by 36 painting for my mother for
Nice.
Mother's Day, right? And I mean, she still has that painting in her house. It was like me, her, and my late grandmother standing in front of my grandmother's house. And my
Lovely.
mama like did the ugly cry, like couldn't breathe, all of that. And for me, I was like, oh, well, maybe I do got a little something, something, because
Yeah.
I was about to pass out here. I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
call, 911 here in a minute. But that was kind of what led me down that path. But, just understanding that it's something for me, and maybe, to the point of sharing with people that you love,
Mm,
and not being so concerned with, oh, I need to do it and let others see it and be a part of this and be a part of that. But that goes back to that whole thing that many of us have in our mind, that if I'm doing it, it needs to be productive. It
right.
needs to be, income generating. It needs to be all these things, and not just something I'm doing just for fun.
Yeah, and it's funny when I first pitched the idea to my publisher, obviously they have to feel like it's a marketable book. And so she took the idea to the marketing department, and there was a young Black woman in the department who said, and she was like in her 20s, and she said, I love this idea because I feel like I'm so focused on my career because I want to be successful for my parents, I want to make them proud, and for my people, that I'm so focused, I feel like I've forgotten how to be interesting. And I
Mm.
thought, what a heartbreaking thing to say, right? And I've really sort of come to believe that your job doesn't make you interesting, your hobby does, right? Like some people have very cool jobs, and that's very, very cool. But what interests me is, what is the thing that you're doing even though you're not getting paid? What is the thing you're doing, and why, right? Like that, I asked you, I was like, what, you said that you love to set the scene, and it was like almost like a self spa moment, right?
Mhm.
For you to have the music and everything else. And I think that's right. I think that for whatever it is, whether or not, like, my husband is a mountain biker, right? Like that's his thing. Pottery is my thing. It could be surfing. That ability to create a space for you to enjoy nature, to tap into wonder and awe, or play, or curiosity, or mindfulness. Creating that for yourself is a really powerful thing, and it
Mhm.
also reminds you who you are. Like, I like to say that this brings you back to yourself, this brings you home to yourself when you're doing something just for the joy of doing it.
It definitely does. And so you have inspired me.
Good.
Tomorrow is my birthday. I'm going to
Yeah.
go ahead and go in that closet and
And
start pulling some
dust
things,
off, yeah, dust off those canvases, man.
dust,
It's
dust some
time.
stuff off, and like really just start creating some things just for the joy of doing it. So, and it will be something that doesn't feel like work at this
Right.
point. But, in the book, you're definitely talking about being an intentional
Mm,
amateur.
mm.
So talk a little bit about that when you say intentional amateur.
Yeah. So it's really related to what we've been just talking about. Like, I think, first of all, even if you start something, if you dabble in something and you're like, let's say you just started painting, right? Like, so you've just started painting, and you start to realize, oh, you know what? I may have a talent at this. It might be something that'd be really good. It's so um alluring to think, maybe I could make a lot of money at this. Maybe this could be my career. Or you have friends that say, you should sell some of this stuff. And that's a very, very intoxicating thing. And so, and I don't knock it. Like, I think
Right.
sometimes that's what you should do, right? Or what to do. But what I wanted to talk about is what happens when we make an intention that is not ever going to be the thing that I'm going to do. I'm not about to go hustle for money. I'm not about to do that. This is 100% for me. Now, that is actually the easier decision to make.
Mm-hmm.
The harder decision is, how do I want to be perfect at it. I want to be the best at it, right? And
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And so for me, and I was particularly worried about this because I knew I wanted to write about my forays into these different activities, but I'm writing a book, and I was afraid that I might not want to share the failures because I
Mm,
knew all these people were going to be. I'm like, I don't want to get to the point where I'm writing the book, I don't do well at something, and then
mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, I won't write about that because it didn't go well. And so that's why I came up with what I call the 7 attributes of
Yes.
intentional amateurism. Because
Yeah.
if I thought, if I could stay tethered to these attributes, right, things like curiosity and mindfulness and self-compassion and connection, if I could do the activity, staying connected to those things, my need for perfectionism would likely fall away, right?
Right.
Because I'm focusing on the curiosity, or I'm focusing on the wonder and awe, or whatever it is. And so when I say intentional amateurism, I am literally talking about I'm making an intention to not do anything that could label me as a pro, right?
Mm,
Right? I want to stay in this space of loving what I do and loving the moment and loving myself as I do these things. That how do we stay into that? Because that's really where the secret sauce is. That's where the magic is.
right. I agree with you on that. And the fact that you're talking about doing it in the midst of life and everything else is going
Yeah.
on. Not wait until you retire.
No. No. No, you want to be interesting now. Let 25-year-old needs to do something now, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And and I will also say this, and this is sort of I've said this a couple of times, and it's sort of woo woo, but I really believe it, right? If we think of of nature, right? Everything is cyclical. So the moon waxes and wanes, tides rise and fall, you know, waves come in to the shore and go out. Even the way we breathe, right? We inhale and we exhale. Like we are nature, and
Mm-hmm.
to do anything in violation of that cycle, I think does us a disservice, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
there's a reason we have to sleep at night, right? Because
Right.
there's a cycle, right? There's a reason that we don't inhale after we've exhaled all the air out of our bodies and are gasping, right? It's cyclical. And I
Mm-hmm.
think having a cycle of rest, of recreation, recreation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of recreation, that is our birthright. Like this is how we're wired to do. And to to be at our optimal selves in handling the rest of the world, we have to build in this cycle of rest and recreation, right? And recreation. We have to do that. And a hobby is a wonderfully natural way to do that. We'd
Mm-hmm.
like to think, okay, well, I'm going to meditate every day. And maybe meditation is not your thing.
Right.
Right. And so now it becomes a chore. Like, I'm not talking about a chore. I'm talking about the thing that calls to you, like, despite everything, the thing that you're like, I'm itching to get back to it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
My husband's a mountain biker. If he's not on his bike, like for 4 or 5 days in a row, he becomes kind of insufferable, like to the
Oh,
point where I'm like, you got to go get on your bike. Like, I'm not sure what's
wow.
happening, but please go get on your bike. And that's happened. The same is happening with me with pottery. Like, if I go
Mm-hmm.
too long, my husband's like, can you go play with a wheel? Go, like, go do something, right? Like, go. And that's the thing that we really have to create, that intentional cadence in our lives, not waiting, as you said, for retirement, but doing it like whatever age you are right now, start to do that into your life.
Mm-hmm. I love it. And so, just speaking of, the 7 ways that we can get there.
Yeah.
I love that you start with curiosity. You've already mentioned it, but I just want to talk
Yeah.
about it a little bit more,
Yeah.
because curiosity can be about something that you used to do and that
Sure.
you want to rediscover it, or maybe it's that thing you've always wanted to try.
Yeah. And not only that, it's also, it is the thing you used to do. It is the thing you want to try, but it's also curiosity about yourself as you try it. Right?
Right.
Like understanding what are these emotions that are coming up when the thing falls apart, when the souffle flops and I feel this sort of negative thing happen within me. Like, what is that about? Because the souffle wasn't for anybody other than me. There's no repercussions with this. So how do I get to the point of mindfulness, of enjoying it, of getting to the point where, like, how can I make this better? How can what happens if I try this? Right? That is a wonderful way to for not just the discovery of the new thing, but
Mhm.
also self-discovery as well.
Yeah, and that is true,
Mm.
because you have to, like, well, you talk about some of these things in the book, but like being able to exercise patience, having
Yeah.
grace for yourself, all these different things that come up in that, because when something goes wrong, it's so easy to then turn and like beat yourself up
Right. Right.
because it didn't go right.
And I would say, like, all of these 7 attributes that I talk about, you know, again, there's no ulterior motive other than to enjoy yourself. But
Hmm.
when you are practicing mindfulness by doing this thing you love, or curiosity, or self compassion, or tapping into wonder and awe, or play or connection, like, you're really exercising a muscle so
Hmm.
that when you go back to your regular life and you really things are do have repercussions and there are challenges, maybe you'll be able to tap into curiosity a little more easily, or mindfulness a little more easily, or connection a little more easily. So like it's a lovely practice that you can take what you learn about yourself and apply it into your regular life.
That's good stuff. And you've already mentioned mindfulness.
Yeah.
For those who may not know what mindfulness is, just isn't sitting and meditating.
Correct.
Mindfulness is
Correct.
so many other things.
Yeah, it's about being like hyper aware of what's happening in the moment, right? So forgetting all the other things, trying to sort of shut out the world and really be focusing on what's happening in the moment. In meditation, it could be, like the space in front of you, a candle, whatever else. But in dabbling or in intentional amateurism, it could be what you need to do in order to paint the canvas, or
Mm-hmm.
what you need to do in order to, mountain bike or boulder or whittle something you do, or oyster shucking, or whatever it is the thing is that you really really love to do. It's an easy, natural way to practice mindfulness, especially for those of us who find meditation a more challenging thing to do,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right?
every time I meditate, I find myself wanting to go to sleep.
Yeah, right. And that can be really hard. But I bet you feel that mindfulness, that sort of, everything else falls away and you're focusing on your painting when you paint, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you're able to practice that mindfulness, and it's something that's, you said you set the stage for yourself, right? Like you put music on, like you are creating a place for flow to happen, right? And mindfulness can be the gateway into flow, which
Mm-hmm.
is what you're doing for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know we've talked about the fact that you like to do pottery, but everybody throughout this book, we are hearing Karen's stories about the things that she tried and maybe loved and maybe didn't love as much anymore. But we
Yep.
also hear stories of other people as well, and kind of how you took some of the lessons that you learned from them and then figured out how you could turn it around for your own self. So
Yep.
we know you did pottery. What's one of the other things that you have tried?
Oh goodness. All right. So pottery I did to explore curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
The next one was mindfulness, and I
Yes.
started a swimming practice,
Okay.
um, which was great for a while until it wasn't. Until I finally was like, yeah, this is starting to feel like a chore.
Mhm.
Um, then I did self compassion, and for that one, to practice self compassion, I wanted to go back to something that I used to do and used to do well, but it had been decades since I'd done it. And I knew I wasn't going to be as good at it, right? So I wanted that opportunity to practice self compassion. And for me, that was piano, returning to a
Mhm.
piano practice.
Mhm.
Let me think. Play was something, I'm a photographer already, and
Right.
I decided I wanted to play with filmmaking. Which I thought was going to be easy, and it wasn't. but
Mhm.
but I love it, and I do play with filmmaking still. Let's see. Stretch zone, like stretching your comfort zone. I wanted to do something that wasn't terrifying, because the world is terrifying enough, but just played with the edge of what I was comfortable with, and maybe challenged myself a little more. And for that was surfing. I did
Mhm.
some surfing lessons. Connection is another one of the attributes. So I wanted to do something with my husband, so we went sailing together. We took sailing lessons together. Um, how many is that? Is that five or six? I wonder.
We have
Wonder and
wonder
awe.
and awe.
Wonder and awe. And that one, so wonder and awe is about doing something that allows you to sort of like feel interconnected with humanity, and or marvel at the world and sort of your place in the universe. And for me, I decided to try astral photography. I wanted to take pictures of the stars of the Milky Way, and that didn't go great, but I tried.
Right.
But
Right.
what's really interesting is that even though I did an activity to explore a single thing, the truth is that when you find the thing, you will probably end up tapping into more than one of those things in the moment,
Absolutely.
right? So,
Absolutely.
like for pottery, which has really stuck with me, like,
Mhm.
yes, for sure, there's curiosity, because anything I can do can change what's going to happen. Definitely mindfulness, because if you don't pay attention, the clay can go flying off the wheel. But also things like, for me, I think about like this tradition that I'm now a part of, right? Like people have been doing pottery for millennia.
Mhm.
Archaeologists use pottery to show that there was evidence of civilization. And so I'm struck with wonder and awe that I am now a part of this tradition, and that
Yes.
the work that I do may last for millennia more. and
Mhm.
and things will happen up after me. And that's, it sort of shows my place in humanity as well, right? And in the story of humanity and the story of this tradition. So like it's really interesting to me how one thing, the thing that you love and can't help but return to, will
Right.
allow you to touch more than one of these seven attributes.
Yes, I love that. That's really good just to think about that.
Mm.
That it's yes, you may be doing it for one reason, but it can really encompass so many parts of your life, and being able to connect and all these different things, stretch yourself and all of those things.
Absolutely. And I just want to say, like, as I look at your art behind you, right? Like, I imagine it is lovely to be in the moment of it, but it looks very, very Afrocentric. Like, it's a way for you to touch your ancestors. You talked about your mother and your grandmother, to
Mm,
touch your people, right? Like, that is some wonder and awe that you're able to, like, sort of connect with just in your
mm.
own practice as well.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, there's definitely a method to my quote unquote madness in it.
Yeah,
Yes,
for sure.
just to have
It's
the
beautiful.
representation. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I wanted to mention that some of the things that you've done, and we'll get back into some of the attributes and share a little more about that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you've done things across the spectrum, things that might seem a little quote unquote simpler versus things that are more challenging,
Mm,
or more financially cost more. So
sure.
let's talk a little bit about that, because some people might think, oh, I don't have time for hobbies. I don't have money for hobbies. I don't have this, you know, um, the time is something, well, you make time for the things that are important to you.
Yeah.
But just from a financial perspective, in cases where people might feel a little stretched, we
Yeah.
know that your dabbling or your hobbies don't always have to be things that cost a lot of money. But what suggestions or advice would you give to people who think that, oh, well, it's going to cost too much for me to get involved in some new hobby or some new adventure?
Yeah, and that's real, right? Like, I mean, pottery is not a cheap hobby. My husband's mountain biking is certainly not a cheap hobby, right? Photography is not a cheap hobby. There's a lot that there is a cost, but there's also a lot of things that might be interesting to you that really cost very little. I mean, like certainly like some sports, like running, or some of the things that you might do with a team, like it may be a cost of a pair of shoes, and that's really it. I was talking with a friend of mine today actually, who has just begun a sketching practice, like art practice, and she has a sketchbook. And the way she started is she's around my age, she has adult children, and she had all of these art supplies from when they were growing up.
Oh,
And
wow.
so what she did, she didn't go out and buy new art supplies. She
Right.
literally went looking for what was around the house that she could use to start this art practice. I actually saw another person the other day that was saying, when he started his art practice, he would use things like not just paints. If he couldn't afford paints, he would use coffee in his house or tea,
Oh,
right?
wow.
Like, like, and figure out other ways that he could paint. So that the other, like something like cooking, right?
Mhm.
You gotta eat, right?
Right.
You gotta eat. So like you could sit there and experiment with cooking and like what kind of foods that you want to feed your family and that kind of thing, that it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. So um I definitely don't, yes, of course, there are certain things that are really, really pricey, but there's a lot of ways, and a lot of ways sort of entry level, that you
Mm,
can get into, where the cost is not prohibitive. And I will also say that when you're dabbling, when you're trying to find your thing, you surely shouldn't be spending a lot of money, right? Like, that is not a thing. If it is your thing, you probably are going to get to the point where it's like, all right, I got to save up because I need to get
right.
this pickleball racket or this, that's going to happen. But certainly, it should not be a barrier to entry. It should be something that you can just do for fun. Maybe a friend of yours is doing something and you want them to teach you how to do it. Whatever it is, like the dabbling part should not be expensive. The But I make no promises for when something has got its hooks in you.
Yeah, yeah. Because again, if you all could see the closet and the amount of art supplies in that closet, and that's like, girl, you got way too much stuff in there to not use it. And I don't want to give it away either. Because
Right.
if I gave it away, then I'd be like, doggone it, you know how much stuff you gave
But
away.
I bet, for example, if a good friend of yours said to you, I've always wanted to do art,
Yeah,
and you might say, why don't you come over? I've got art supplies and I'll just show you kind of how the paints work. Right.
right.
So like just getting the foot in the door. Like you may have friends that are already doing, like, show me what this looks like. What does this feel like? Show me how to do that. That for
Mhm.
sure should not cost you a lot of money. Like
Right.
maybe you bring the bottle of wine to, to your house while you teach all of the, while
Right.
you teach sort of thing. It could be something as simple as that.
Yes, I love that. I love that. But I just wanted to bring that up because I know
Yeah,
some
that's
people
real.
might watch and be like, I don't, I can't do this or I can't do that. And then I'm thinking, because, like you talk about taking classes, a lot of times in your community, there might be classes,
Yeah.
floral arrangement class or, whatever it is that you're interested in that you might be able to take for $20 just to, dip your toe and see, oh, do I like this or do I not like this?
And don't sleep on YouTube. Like
Yes,
YouTube will
university.
teach you anything. YouTube University is real. So that's
Mhm.
another thing. Like I watch tons of YouTube for my pottery, and anything that you want to do, there is something on YouTube that will help teach you like what it takes to get started.
Yes, it's funny that you're saying that because my mom has been watching a lot of YouTube videos, like looking at people with style and fashion and stuff. She
Yeah.
said, "Oh, she's always been, I would consider a snazzy dresser,
Hmm.
for a seasoned citizen like she is." But she's
Yeah.
like, "I'm trying to get some new tips."
Right.
So she's been watching
Exactly.
videos for that.
And the beauty is like, because I watch a lot of style like influencers as well, and like so many of them are about like, oh, you can get this at thrift stores, or you can repurpose this, or you can alter this easily at home. And like there's always a cheaper way of doing whatever it is you want to do. It's just a
Mhm.
matter of sort of looking into how buying things secondhand. Like there's
Right.
always something that you can do to help lower the cost for sure.
Yes, yes, I love that. I love that. So, kind of back to the attributes. We've talked about it a little bit. Self-compassion.
Yeah, yeah. Self-compassion was it was funny as I was coming up with these attributes, sometimes what I thought it was going to be turned into something else. So self-compassion was originally what I wanted to write about was detaching your ego, like being able to like fail at something and be okay with it. And that's why I thought it was I'm going to call it detachment from ego. But then what I realized is it's not that. It's actually understanding that certainly when you're a beginner, but even when you're not, like failure is going to be part of the process. And
Mhm,
it's about being compassionate to yourself and understanding that it's totally natural for failure.
mhm.
And the beauty of self compassion is when you treat yourself kindly as you're learning, as you're doing this, it helps you build resilience because
Yeah,
once you understand, oh, this is completely natural for this to have happened. The fact that I'm disappointed is totally natural. Now let's pick ourselves up and try again. Like
mhm,
that's the way that you can sort of build resistance. And remember, there's no repercussions, right?
right.
So if you fail, okay, you fail, right? Just keep going. Like nobody's paying you, nobody's expecting all of this. I was speaking to a group recently, and there was a woman in the group who she was I think in her 60s, and she said to me, she goes, the thing that I really want to dabble in is basketball. She goes, I've always loved basketball,
Okay.
and growing up I played it in high school. But I've had a couple of injuries now, and I'm not as young as I was when I was in high school. And so I'm afraid to start because I know I'm not going to be that great. And I look at the women of the WNBA and I think, God, they're so great, and I'm never going to be that.
Mm.
So give me some advice. And I said, nobody's expecting you to be at WNBA level, right?
Right,
Like,
right.
like
Not at 60
there
plus.
are, well, not even at 15. Like that's rarefied air. Very few people get to WNBA standards. So nobody's
That's true.
expecting that. So what I would advise you is first of all, go gentle if you've had injuries, right? Like you need to be careful, but tap in to the feeling of what is it that I love about basketball? Is it the dribbling? Is it the working with and get a few people who might be interested in it. And even if you just play horse, like you don't even have to play a full game, but just sort of being able to like feel the ball, play with the ball, see what you can do. And the beauty of having a cadence of returning to this thing you love is inevitably you're going to get better. You may
Absolutely.
not get perfect, but you're going to get better. So as you do this, in a month, you're going to marvel at the fact that you're doing something that you could not have done a month ago, right? And
Mhm,
that's where the delight is just watching your own evolution as you play the game, not perfectly, not trying
mhm.
to get to anything, but just watching what your own body is capable of doing every single time you come back to the practice. I mean, that's delight.
Yes, that is definitely delight. One thing I looked over here a second ago because I have a quote that I put up on the wall that says, "Failure is just information," and that's Toni Morrison who said that.
I love her.
So yes, if you do fail or make a mistake or that souffle falls or whatever the case may be, you fall off the mountain bike or whatever, it's just information. Maybe you need
Exactly
to do
right.
some things a little bit differently the next time. You learn from that information and you can do something a bit differently.
Yeah.
So I do love that. And you mentioned perfection,
Mm.
getting away from the idea that things have to be perfect because there is no such thing as perfection.
There is no such thing. And it's real, it's funny. So I've been doing pottery now for a little over a year, right? And I tell people all the time, I'm not a natural potter, right? Like I'm there are people who took the class that I took who are making far more intricate things than I'm capable of doing, right? I'm definitely better than that first class. But the thing about the thing about it is that I know I can become a skilled potter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And pottery is like I always say pottery is an exercise in disappointment because there's so many different places it could go wrong. Like you could try throwing and something goes wrong and then it has to dry and it cracks while it's drying and then okay it doesn't crack but now you have to put it in the kiln for the first time and then it cracks then and so now it's ruined. Okay, oh no, it made it out. Now we'll glaze it. Okay, but the glaze runs all over the place. Like every single step there's something that can go wrong, right? It's an
Mm-hmm.
exercise in disappointment. But man, when the lows may be low, but the highs are high, right?
Yes.
And so that understanding like how I change, what I change, understanding what my own style is going to become, that's really really fun stuff. And that's the thing we should be focusing on is that present moment, failures and successes, all of it together.
Yes. Yes. And I can't remember the name. It's a I can't think of what it's called, but where you take something that's been cracked or broken and you add gold to it.
Yeah,
I
the
can't think of what it's.
Japanese thing. Like I've heard of wabi sabi, but there's another specific name
Yeah,
for it.
you know what I'm talking
I do
about.
know it. Yeah, yeah, it's
Like, yeah,
beautiful.
it might have cracked, but you like take a little some gold and put in there, and then it becomes something that's even more beautiful
Absolutely.
than what it was. It's like you're embracing the flaws in that and creating something beautiful. So just to think of that,
Yeah,
as
for sure.
well. So, I'm thinking specifically with pottery and things like that. Oh man, it cracked, but they could do a little something.
Do a
Oh
little thing,
wow,
yeah.
it's what I originally intended.
And that's really true of like of everything, like anything, especially creative arts. Like I'm sure with painting, it's the same way. Something a mark goes wrong or a color goes wrong, and you're like, well, how can I incorporate it, right? And I
Mhm.
think that idea of being able to pivot, like that ability to pivot while you're practicing something that has no repercussions. Like again, you're exercising a muscle that
Mhm.
in the real world, you're going to be able to go, you know what? This is disappointing, but I know how to handle disappointment. I know
Mhm.
how to morph it into something that actually might work. And
Right.
and that, so you build muscles as you do this for the
Mm.
rest of your world, for the rest of your life.
Yes. Pleasure in the pivot.
Yeah.
Play, talking about P words.
Yeah.
Play is also one of the attributes of dabbling that you can,
Yeah.
and I really love play.
Yeah, I play was one of the ones that I felt like was probably the most obvious thing for being an amateur. I thought
Mhm.
um like it almost seems to go without saying, but there's all of this research on play and how play is not only necessary for children and really there's a lot of people like Dr. Stuart Brown is sort of the person, the preeminent researcher on play, and he talks about how often people in prisons, right?
Mhm.
Often they find themselves there because there was a lack of play
Wow.
as children, and how much that play can help your development, literally cognitive development. But it doesn't go away when you're an adult. And so play is something that you do where you lose track of time, right? It's very
Mhm.
similar to flow, right? It's related to flow. And that definitely has to be a part of amateurism because again, this is should be something that you just naturally gravitate toward. It should not feel like a chore, right?
Mhm.
It should be like, I'm doing this. Oh my gosh, what happened to the time? I didn't realize,
Right.
right, that the time went away. And that became really, really important for me. And also, it was a little bit of discerning for me about which
Mhm.
of the things that I tried were going to stick and
Okay.
weren't, right?
Uh-huh.
So the swimming practice, while it was fine and I enjoyed it, I was always knew how much more longer I had to go. I always knew how much,
Mhm.
it was not something that just sort of fell away from me. But things like, well, actually, the piano, when I went back to piano for self-compassion, when I was a kid, I used to lose track of time. I found
Mhm.
as an adult I didn't anymore, right? Like, it
Okay.
was like, "Oh, I thought I was gonna just fall right back into it, and it turns out, and this is feeling like the scales are feeling like a chore."
Mhm.
Pottery, I can be at the pottery all day long. I'm like, I will lose track of time. And so
Mhm.
that's a really great way to sort of discern, is this my thing or
Mhm.
is this not my thing, right? Do you start to lose like, oh, I that was so much fun. I forgot that I had other things to do. That's a
Mhm.
really, really good clue that that might be something that's worth exploring some more.
Yes, that thing that you just kind of get lost in.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, one of the other things that I don't remember which attribute you talked about it under, but and I actually mentioned this to my mom,
Mm.
that sometimes you can be so engrossed in a thing, but while you're in the midst of that thing, you get ideas about something else
Yeah.
because you're in this thing and it's like your mind goes to a different place.
Yeah.
And, you might think of what to write in that next chapter or, whatever other thing that you might be working on because now you're just in this zone, in this creative space. And it's like it opens up your mind in other ways.
Absolutely. That happened a lot with the my swimming practice, actually. Like, as I was sitting there doing, and there's something about the cadence of swimming, right? Of the strokes and the breathing and the strokes and you're going back and forth. Like, that was a really great way for me to actually like work out paragraphs that I needed to work out while I was writing, or the issue that my daughter was dealing with, and I suddenly had an idea. I was like, oh, I bet that would help her, things like that. That definitely happened for that, which was great.
Hmm. And which is one of the reasons why I want to get back to painting because there are some things that I want to write. And
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? Because my head is always in a book. Yes, I get ideas, but it's a little bit different because I'm taking in other people's ideas a lot.
Yep.
When I'm painting, that's just me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know that when I start painting that again, that it will open up other things because I'm just really in my thoughts and my creativity and
Right.
ideas and things like that. So that is one of the reasons why I said I need to find space to do that again to help us some other things. Even if I'm not trying to quote unquote market the painting,
Yep.
it could be a way for me to be more creative in other ways.
Absolutely. So now it's gonna happen. You gonna make a commitment to yourself before we get off of this to
Oh
to,
yeah,
to dust those off, to dust those canvases and paint supplies
yes.
off.
Absolutely. Now we talk about stretch zone versus
Yeah.
comfort zone. So many people live in the comfort zone. It's overcrowded in the comfort zone.
But you know what? I'm pro comfort zone, and here's why. That I am, because I think a lot of times, like, we have to differentiate between comfort zone and complacency zone, right?
Right.
And the complacency zone is when you're not motivated to do anything. But you know what? I'm a pro comfort zone. I like being comfortable. Like, comfort is a good thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I keep forgetting who was the person that said that you should do one thing that terrifies you every day. I flatly disagree. I think the world is terrifying enough. Like, I don't need to do
Right.
that. But what the beautiful thing about a comfort zone is it shows you where the edges are. And what I think that
Mm-hmm.
having an avocation that can help you flirt with those edges and maybe just stretch them a little bit. So this is about doing something that doesn't terrify you, but allows you to gently test your own capacity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for this one, I did surfing lessons. Now, I grew up on an island. I grew up in the Caribbean. I grew up on the ocean. I've scuba dived in the past. Like, I used to scuba dive a lot. So the ocean doesn't scare me, right? Now, I'd never surfed before. And so that was a little like, that's standing up on a board and, going pretty fast. Like, waves are not short, are not slow. So I was nervous about it, but it wasn't a terrifying thing. Now, for some
Right.
people, like, the ocean is terrifying. Like, I'm
Yes.
not getting in the
I would
ocean.
be terrified.
Yeah, right. Like, there's animals and stuff like that. Like, I would not suggest somebody do that. For me, I, anything with real heights, I'm not doing. Like, I'm not bungee jumping. I'm not jumping out of a plane. Like, that is madness for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the point is to not get outside of your comfort zone. It's about being in your comfort zone, seeing where those edges are, and then just stretching them just a little bit further, just to sort of show you what you're capable of.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's good.
Mhm.
That's good. So yeah, I posed that question that way for a reason.
Yeah,
but,
yeah, yeah.
but yes, really, a lot of people in the complacency zone is really
Is the
more.
problem. That's
It's
it.
a problem. It's a
Yep.
problem. It's a problem. Of course, you talked about this a bit, and you mentioned, your beloved connection. That
Yeah.
doing these different things can also open up space for connection.
Yeah, for sure. And that can be a connection in a lot of different ways. Like for me, we did a sailing lesson, and it was definitely something that I did with my partner. But it can also be a competitive sport, right? Like it could be playing something competitively with somebody and sort of, you know, as long as you're like not crazy about it and like take a loss poorly, but just sort of
Right.
the ability to sort of challenge each other. I will tell you that doing something new with someone who is also new at it is a wonderful connector, because you're both not going to be great at it. So there, it takes the competition away a little bit, the
Hmm.
competitiveness, not the competition, but the competitiveness. And then
Right.
also like the connecting that happens after, where you
Right.
sort of debrief and like, oh, wasn't that funny when you did that? And that was great. And wow, I really like how you did that. So that can be really lovely. The
Mm.
other thing is, it can be connection because you are creating space for something else. So for someone else. So cooking is a great example. Like you may love to, like, cooking might be your thing because you want to have dinner parties, or you're into wines. And so you want to get people together so you can like try new wines. And, so it can also be setting the stage for allowing other people to connect, DJing maybe, or, all the things that you can do. And there's so much research that says, the best way to age, the best way to get older is to have strong connections, right? And this is a way that you can sort of strengthen those connections through a common interest.
Right. And you do talk about in the book that a lot of people feel isolated.
Sure.
And so finding things that you can do that would allow you to connect with others, whether it's through taking a class or, whatever the case, or going to a dance lesson and there are going to be other people in there
Yeah.
dancing, learning how to salsa or, merengue or, hip hop, whatever it is.
Right.
Those are things that give you connections and does away with some of the isolation, which impacts us mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and all these other things as well.
And the other thing also is, like, for me, like, I am a deeply introverted person. I'm not shy, but I love being alone. Like when the pandemic happened and lockdown happened, I was like, I was made for this. You're telling me I can't leave my house? This is perfect, right? But what's really, and so for me, connection can feel a little overwhelming, right? Because I'm like, I don't know that I want to connect with people. But what I've discovered through pottery, again, I'm a member of a community pottery. And when I became a member, I thought, well, I'm just going to go put my headphones on, do my thing, and leave. But what, of course, ends up happening is that you start to connect with people over this common love, right? And so people are like, oh, that's really good. Or how did you do that? Or could you tell me like what this tool is for? And suddenly you're all of a sudden a part of a community with people that you may have never crossed paths with. And
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't feel overwhelming because the focus isn't on you, it's on this thing that you share a love for. And that shared love naturally, like sort of community sort of arises out of that shared love, which is a really, really great feeling.
Mm-hmm. And as you're saying that, I don't know if I've said it here, but I know we talked about it before with the reading. Now because I read so much and my head is
Yep.
constantly in a book, wherein reading used to feel like a hobby. Now
Yep.
sometimes it feels like, okay, oh, I gotta hurry up, I gotta read. Sometimes it
Yeah.
does feel like work.
Yep.
But the caveat to that is that this community that has come because of the reading, because the reading
Right.
itself is very solitary, right? But to have a conversation with you, or
Yeah.
to then in turn have a conversation with a friend who's going to read your book,
Yeah.
and and things like that, or like next weekend I'm going to a book conference.
Yeah.
So yes, it's a solitary thing. Yes, sometimes I am in let me get prepared mode, but
Yep.
out of that, there has been this great community that's come. And there's a friend, we went to dinner last week, and I've known her for years, right? And we always, knew that we were readers, but I was able to have a conversation with her about some of the books that she's read and the authors that I've interviewed, and we could really, like, have that
That
conversation
connection.
because of
Yeah,
that. There's a real connection because of
absolutely.
that. And she's like, "What are you reading next? Who you got coming next?" So
Right.
that sort of thing. So a lot of times you might not start out looking for community, like in the instance you gave. You just gonna, hey, I'm gonna have my head down, do my thing, but you just never know what.
Exactly. Exactly right. Yep.
So that's good. Wonder and awe. We've already talked about that a little bit, just about the wonder and awe of like being in nature and things like that. But
Yeah.
anything else you want to share about that particular attribute?
Well, it's just that it's two things. Like some of it can be in nature. Like my husband, obviously, as a mountain biker, taps into wonder and awe because he's in the mountain. He's in the hills and in nature. It can be that, but it can be as simple as realizing like how interconnected we are. It could be like you painting all these beautiful black women and really sort of contemplating the fact that black excellence and black beauty and stuff like that. You're able to sort of be a part of this community and express your love for this community. So it can be both the wonder and awe of feeling very small when in the presence of greatness, but it can also be the interconnectedness that you feel with other people or with a community as well.
That's good. And last but not least, path to transcendence.
Yeah, so that's part of the wonder and awe. So the thing is that as you sit there and you do all of these things and you're tapping into wonder and awe and connection and self-compassion, like you can't help but sort of transcend who you are, right? And so that's why I say that practicing a hobby or practicing an intentional amateurism, going back to that thing that you love all the time, that is a way for you to achieve real self-compassion and real self-transcendence, to sort of evolve as a person, because of this inquiry you're doing into your own creativity, into your own love. So yeah, and I did not expect that when I started writing the book. Like
Hmm.
that chapter was the last chapter I wrote, and I was sort of like, oh wow, this is really something much bigger than just having a little fun dabbling at something. Like this is about something that's much bigger.
That's what we wanted to share that. Now, those are the things that you talk about, but one of the other things I love at the end of the book, and I went in, I did some highlighting.
Did you? Good.
Tell you this before, but yeah, some of the things I'm already doing. Oh, you can't really
Oh,
see.
there we go. Now we can see it.
And I highlighted some stuff. You have like, what is it, 6 or 7 pages of
Yeah, it's about 250 stuff.
yes, amateur pursuits, some of which you have done, some of which you might still try, some of which you're like, oh hell no, never.
Exactly. And it has everything in there from rock climbing to twerking. Like
Yes,
everything, like there's
I
all
missed working. I need to highlight that.
twerking's up in there. Like
Somebody
there's
showed me how to do it. I just didn't keep practicing.
that could be your next dabble. I'm just
Yeah, that could
saying,
be
right?
my next dabble. Yes,
But
yes.
yeah, so if you don't know where to start, the back of the book is a really good place to just sort of get some ideas to inspire what might be interesting to you.
Yeah, because a lot of times, there are people who just really don't know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's not, the thing is, like, I suspect that what happens is somebody goes somewhere. You might go to like a circus, or you go somewhere and you're like, oh, that'd be so cool to try that. But then it's a fleeting thought, right?
Hmm.
And so hopefully that huge list at the back, and I just scratched the surface,
Hmm.
might spark that memory for you, and hopefully like, oh, right, like using like aerial silks. I remember seeing that once, and that was cool. And I bet there might be a course here with like a free trial. Like maybe I'll just go try that and see what happens. And so
Hmm.
hopefully that will spark a few memories, for readers as they start to think about what is something that I could dabble with to see if I can find the focus of my intentional amateurism.
Yes, I love that. And another thought that came to mind. Remember when we were kids and growing up and you wanted to dabble and your parents would get upset with you for wanting to dabble and say, hey, wait a minute, you just did this like 2 weeks ago and I'm not going to pay for you to go over there and do that.
Yep. Yep. And
So
now your
now
parents can't say nothing.
your parents can't say nothing. Now that you're an adult, you can dabble in whatever you want to dabble in, and dabble as long, to your heart's content without somebody saying
Absolutely.
no.
Absolutely.
You know.
And also, by the way, you can stop whenever you want as well. Because
Yes,
remember when your parents would be like, I just paid all this money, I'll be damned. You're going to keep going and doing that. So, like, you
right.
don't have to do that anymore either.
Right, right. You can say, you know what, I do quit. And it's
Exactly.
okay that I quit. And
Exactly
yeah,
right.
I don't have to hear, well, I just bought you a piano.
Exactly.
What do you mean you quit?
Exactly. Exactly right.
Oh yeah, that's definitely an advantage of doing it at dabbling as a grown person.
As a grown person, for sure.
I love that. I love that. Now, Karen, of course, the book is, your book baby is a couple of days old.
That's
And
it.
I do know you got a lot going on in terms of getting out there in the world and, letting people learn about you, learn about, this beautiful book. So what are some of the things that you'll be doing in the days ahead or places that you may be where folks could come out and see you?
Oh yeah. So I'm coming. You first of all, you can go to my website, KarenWalrond.com, and if you go to the books, you'll see In Defense of Dabbling, and it has all of the book tour places that I'm going to. So I'm going to be in San Antonio, Portland, New York City, Denver, Santa Fe, even Bristol, UK, in the UK. So I'm going to be in a bunch of different places coming up. So please, please come out and visit me if you're there. But otherwise, I hope you grab the book.
Yes,
You can get it anywhere books are sold, and we love an independent bookstore, so look there first before you buy anywhere else. And I hope you enjoy it. I hope it, I the big thing that I want people to get out of this is that we have the power to create joy in our lives, and we should
absolutely.
take it. It is our birthright to take it.
Right. And we need it now more than ever.
More than ever,
More than
girl.
That's a different conversation, but
That's
yeah,
a whole other conversation, but we
whole
need
nother
it.
conversation. But as you mentioned, places to pick up the book. It is available at the Brown Girl
Of course.
Collective bookstore.
Yes,
So
that's another
that
place
is
to
a
get it.
space where you can find the book. You can go there. And hey, I just noticed this today when I came on this platform. There's a QR code. So
Nice.
if you're
That
watching on a TV or another screen and want to grab that QR code, that takes you directly to the Brown Girl Collective bookstore. And Karen's book is listed there prominently. So I
nice.
definitely suggest that can grab a copy from either your favorite retailer or your favorite book host, which is me,
Exactly right. Exactly
one or
right.
the other.
You
And
should do it just because it's your birthday. That's why
just
people
because,
should get
yeah,
it
it's
there.
my birthday
It's your
tomorrow,
birthday.
yeah, you're sending a sister a little gift.
Exactly. Marcy needs a gift. Give
I
her.
need a little gift and go buy myself a cup of coffee or some dinner or whatever the
There
case
you
may
go.
be. So, Karen, thank you so much for being here. I know we have been online even longer than what we've
Yeah.
been with the audience, but so I'm going to let you like grab some water, whatever, but don't hang up just yet. I'm going to give people announcements of what's coming over the next couple of weeks, but hang on so we can say a proper good night. So I'll see you in just a second.
Okay.
All righty. So, as always, Karen is so much fun to talk to. I'm so glad that I had a chance to have her here to talk about In Defense of Dabbling. And, as you all can see, I like color. So, even the colorfulness of this book is all right up my alley and definitely inspiring me to not only start painting again, but I've been wanting to like ride a bike like I used to love doing when I was a child and, take swimming lessons, there's just different things that have kind of been in the back of my mind. So thank you, Karen, for bringing them to the forefront. And, I'm going to stay in touch so you can see some of the ways that I'm getting out here and dabbling, and we're going to see what sticks. So by means of announcements on next Monday, which is September 29th, I will have Robin Allison Davis with us to talk about her new memoir, Surviving Paris, a memoir of healing in the city of lights. So we'll be talking to Robin on the 29th. Then on October the 6th, I will have Mia McKenzie. Actually, she had been scheduled earlier in the year, but we had to reschedule. So October the 6th, she will be here to talk about These Heathens. Yes, These Heathens is the name of the book. And then I wrote down the date, October the 9th, we will have Anna Gifty Opoku Agiman. I might be pronouncing that wrong, so count it to my head and not my heart. She'll be here to talk about the double tax, how women of color are overcharged and underpaid. So yeah, that's real important and real timely. So those are the next three guests that we have coming over the next couple of weeks. And so I look forward to seeing you all for as many of those as you can. And if you can't catch them live, catch them in the replay. And until we meet again, I'm going to go and celebrate my birthday and have a really good time. But I hope that all of you will continue to take good care of yourselves, to do a little dabbling, and go ahead and consider what it means to live well. Take good care. Bye-bye.